great to have you here for another episode of 25 Backstory. I'm Rondell Joseph. He's originally from Queens, New York, but was more of a news guy than a weather guy. His work for United Airlines later got him a position at Fox 32 Chicago through the late Jim Tillman. He also talks about life after television news and states that he wasn't the only one ousted at Fox 32 back in the day. I sit down with former meteorologist Rick DiMaio. We talk about life on TV and off the camera. I also recognize that there were some technical difficulties on my end, but the show, of course, must go on. Take a look.
Everything. The air traffic controller actually talks to the airplanes while they're in flight. The flight dispatcher talks to the pilots on the ground and sometimes in the cockpit. So my job as a weather instructor at United Airlines was to teach the flight dispatchers about weather. Now, one day, someone came to me and said, look, I'm opening up a flight dispatch school outside of United Airlines. Would you be willing to come and teach one of my classes? I said, sure. I wasn't going to pay a lot, but I was always looking for, doing new things. And I found it much more enjoyable teaching people weather as opposed to just telling them what I knew, being that was my job as a forecaster at United Airlines. And then when I went to TV, I was still doing that because even though I was making good money, I didn't want to get rid of that. I knew that was something that I really enjoyed. And then I met someone who was teaching a class at Columbia College. His name is Alan Seals. Alan Seals used to be a meteorologist with WGN. He worked aside Tom Skilling. So Tom Skilling was doing classes at Columbia College. And one day he came to me and said, Rick, I need someone to do my class on Saturdays. I'm not going to be able to do them for a while. I said, sure, Tom, I'll do them. So I filled in for Tom Skilling at Columbia College. And then I filled in for Alan Seals at Columbia College. And then one day I get home and there's a light blinking on my message and it's Alan Seals saying, Rick, I'm leaving Chicago and they need someone to teach the class at Columbia. So I started teaching the kids at Columbia about TV and weather and things like that. So even though I was at Fox, I was still doing Columbia College. And even when I left Fox, I was doing Columbia College and I was doing the School of the Art Institute. And then about 6 months after filling in for, or doing fill-in work over at Channel 2, I said, you know what? I'm going to go back to school and get my master's. So I went back to school, got my master's degree, and then I got a part-time position at Loyola, part-time position at Oakton, part-time position at Lewis University in the Romeoville area, which is right where the National Weather Service office is, teaching students how to be pilots and air traffic controllers and flight dispatchers. And one thing led to another, and next thing you know, they offered me a full-time job. And the cool thing about it is they've asked me to come back to Channel 2 and Fox a couple of different times to do some fill-in work as recently as 2017. They asked me again this summer and I turned it down. I was like, you know what, guys, not to be disrespectful, but I just don't have time on my schedule to do that this summer. I wrote my own textbook. I do radio work. I'm teaching classes. And as much as I would love to be back doing some fill-in work on TV, I guess I did it enough where I don't need to do it. The money was good, but I'm okay without it at this point.
Well, it's a good thing they did call in Tim McGill afterwards then.
Yeah, you know what? It's interesting because I know Tim personally. And when the news director kind of put feelers out for me to come back, Tim had already said, I'm looking to do some part-time work over at Fox. And if I would have said yes, Tim probably would not have gotten the fill-in job at Fox, which he's doing now. So I told him, I go, no, I'm not interested. And I kind of wanted Tim to get it because I think he got a raw deal over at COTV and WGN. I think they should have rehired him at WGN after Mike Hamernack passed away.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't. And then Tim was hired over at Channel 2, which was great. and now he's over at Fox. And we'll see how how long that lasts. It could last a long time because they got rid of Bill Bellis, and they only had 3 people for almost 4 or 5 months. So clearly they need Tim.
Yeah.
Whether or not they hire him on full time is another thing. I know for sure that Mike Kaplan, who I think is the best on-camera meteorologist in this city, I really do.
Yeah.
I talked to him already, and he's not interested in the evening job.
I figured because he still has his colleague who he actually worked with Channel 7, Sylvia Perez, on the morning show as well. And of course, Mike Kaplan, he and Jerry Taft were the hilarious ones when it comes to weather over at Channel 7 back in the day, and made Jerry's soul rest in peace. I know I didn't think Mike would probably want the evening position, but a lot of people were putting their money on that. Let's just say that.
Yeah, and it's not to say that Tim wouldn't have gotten the position at Fox if I would have said yes to it, but I know that if I would have pushed hard enough, I probably would have gotten it. I was like, I think Tim deserved it, and I'm glad Tim got it. I got other stuff going on. I just finished publishing a textbook last year, so I got that under my umbrella of things to do, and I'm happy. But I think Mike also has a photography company on the side, and he also has a studio up in Door County. So I think he likes work in the mornings and then having the afternoon to do his other things. But if you become the evening, meteorologist, your days are completely consumed by your work. And I think he wanted to have his morning job and then his side job with the photography. And you know what? That's great that he's able to do that. It's nice to be able to say no to something and still be relatively happy and comfortable mentally and financially.
Indeed. And I had met the late Mike Camernick a few years ago while I was touring at WGN. This is before he had passed. This was in 2019 while he was doing the weekend morning show. Big thanks to Sean Lewis, by the way, guys. And he knows his stuff. He was really experienced, dedicated. After what happened with CLTV back in 19 when Nexstar bought out WGN and other Tribune stations, I knew it was just a matter of time before Tim McGill and everybody else who was there was out. I think Judy Wang is still at WGN. I'm not sure. I haven't watched in so long.
Yeah, I think you're referring to the fact that Nexstar was going to get rid of CLTV.
Yeah, and now with their look of News Nation now and what is the old CLTV, previously WGN studio, I'm not sure if it's going to get far.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? I know one of my students from Lewis University works over there as a producer, and for a while he was posting a lot of positive things about his job over there, and he has not posted anything positive for quite some time. So we'll see what happens with News Nation. It has not been successful at all. I mean, their audience is really, really low.
I don't know what's worse, News Nation or what was CBS 2 News at 4 o'clock.
Yeah, I guess that's one way of looking at it. Yeah.
Yeah, because most of the things that you see on TV, especially in the Chicago market, you gotta have a big approach. That's the big thing. And if you don't have a big approach, it might not last long.
Yep, I agree with you on that.
And that's something like most stations have. CBS 2 has a problem. That was their problem in the past and somewhat still is. You see that anchor chair rotates every 3 to 4 years, maybe 2.
Yeah, and I worked with Rob Johnson and Kate Sullivan. I thought they were fantastic. I worked with Jim Williams and Maya Martinez, and I remember when Tim left. Tim, when I was over at WFLD, Tim McGill, like every 2 years, was sending me like an email, any full-time jobs opening up there, because he really wanted to crack into, like GN or something bigger than CLTV. And I go, Tim, I wish I could, but right now we have nothing available. And even when the morning slot opened up, I pushed for Tim to get the job, but they wanted a female, they wanted a woman, and ended up hiring what's her name? No. Before Tammy. Oh God, I can't believe it. Her last name. Oh, Michelle Lee. Michelle Lee. And then Michelle Lee left because the new news director came in and said, "I'm going to get rid of her." I'm like, "Oh, brother." So it's pretty bad when you know that someone's going to get the axe before they do. And then they brought in Tammy Souza, and yeah, Tammy was great. And I think, if they were going to get rid of me, they should have put Tammy up there. So now they had Tammy in the morning and Amy Freeze in the evening. I think Tammy looked at that as like a slight against her. She should have got the evening job. She was but again, that's how news directors will sometimes pit talent against one another. They'll do that. They really will. But anyway, yeah. So I mean, I worked with Jim Williams and Mai Martinez for 4 or 5 years, and on that show was Megan Mawicki, who did sports. And then look what happened just about 6 months ago. CBS gets rid of Megan Mawicki.
Mai Martinez, Megan Glaros, Aaron Kennedy. This was last May. Yeah, I remember that. And Pam Zekman.
Pam Zekman. You knew that was going to kind of happen. And then the traffic guy as well.
Derek Young. Yeah, when he was cut for Yasmin Hassan a few years ago. We all had a bad feeling it was coming because just 6 months prior to Derek being ousted, Marissa Bailey was ousted with Rob Johnson.
Oh yeah. And I worked briefly with Marissa. And then I worked a bunch of times with Derek. What was his last name?
Young.
Derek Young. Yeah, I worked a bunch of times with him, and we kind of got into a rhythm working with each other, and it was fun. So it was neat to be able to work, and it was amazing because people knew me not so much as a TV meteorologist, but they go, "So you're a real meteorologist because you worked for the airlines." I was like, what do you mean a real meteorologist? Shouldn't a real meteorologist be on TV? But a lot of times you'll get people who are not degreed but are certified, which is not as much of a scientific background as someone with a degree. And then here I am doing TV now with not only a degree but with a master's degree. And for a time I was the only person on the TV and TV weather in Chicago that had a master's degree. But anyway, I mean, that's neither here nor there. But the bottom line is you get to know a lot of people, really, really quickly just by being nice with them. And, just recently I've been asked on WGN radio with Anna Devlantis almost weekly now. And a lot of this started because I would send Ro Khan, when he was with WLS, emails, because I know Ro likes a lot of stuff about aviation. And every once in a while, he'd call me up. And then he was ousted from WLS. Then he went over to WGM. He would call me up, blah, 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 ask me about stuff. And I would be on like maybe once every 2 months, once every 3 months. And now Anna Devlantis has me on like literally once a week. And I don't get paid for it, but she tells me and tells the audience who I am, mentions my name, who I work for. So it's one of those things where it's a really nice way of still being in the market. I do the weather on WJOL, which is in Joliet. That's the largest station in Will County. So WJOL is 1340 AM. And then I find out that John Dempsey, who was with WLS and who I worked with at Fox for years, started out at WJOL. I learned that Andrea Darlis used to be with WGN, started with WJOL. So Scott Childers, who's over at The River, 95.5, he worked at WJOL, and he was actually our first traffic reporter with Bob Surratt on Fox. So it's amazing how these things kind of, work through. And then Eddie Volkman, who was at the height of his game with Jobo on B96. If you remember Eddie Volkman and Jobo, big in Chicago. Eddie Volkman's dad is Harry Volkman, who I worked with. Harry Volkman was the TV meteorologist to issue a tornado warning when he worked in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And when he came over to Channel 2, I actually had to teach Harry how to use a mouse and how to do the computer. And almost every Saturday afternoon, the phone would ring. "Hon, it's Harry. Harry would be on the phone. Rick, how do I get this? How do I do this? How do I do that? And I literally had to work him through certain steps to get him to do things on the air. And it was, unless I was able to put together Harry Volkman's show, he wouldn't be able to be as smooth as he was on the air. And I remember his son even saying to me, thanks for making it really comfortable for my dad to still be on TV. And yet 20 years before that, here I'm watching Harry Volkman, and the way things flipped, where now I'm, you know, I've learned from Jim Tillman, Harry Volkman, Tom Skilling. I worked with Bill Curtis, you know, for a couple of shows. And here it is, only because one day I happened to call up Jim Tillman and told him that the volcanic ash video that he had wasn't very good. That's how it all started. You know, I never took a single TV class in college. It was all self-taught, self-learned.
So do you have any advice for any future meteorologists who want to go into this business?
Yeah, I mean, first off, the best way to learn how to do good radio is to listen to people do good radio. The best way to learn how to do good TV is to watch people do good TV. And be a critic, be harsh, be hard on yourself. Never think you're good. Always think you have to work harder at what you do to get better. And the same thing applies to being a meteorologist. Never look out the window and think that what's happening everywhere else is what's happening out your window. Always start out with a good analysis. Always go through your reps. Always be thorough. Always make sure that what you're doing is not done just to get the job done, that you really need to work hard at making sure that, put it this way, when I'm on with Anna Devlantis for 10 minutes, I probably put 2 hours of work into it, between sending her graphics, putting text information in there. And sometimes what I'll do is I'll take my dog for a walk for about 15 minutes, knowing that I have to get back at a certain time to be on the air because they'll call me up. And what I'll do is I'll go through kind of like a mock conversation with her or with someone else about what I'm going to talk about. Because when you do that, it enables you to get comfortable with what you're saying. And the same thing with weather forecasts. Going through certain weather forecasts, you always have to go through it like you're making a forecast for your best friend's wedding. Don't treat any weather forecast at any less of a importance than the next one or the next one or the next one. So when someone says, "What's your best forecast?" I always say it was my last one, because that was the month that, and trust me, news directors will do that. When you go for an interview and they go, "What was your best interview? What was your best story?" Always say, "It was my last one." Always say that, because that means that that's the one that you put in the most work in up to that point. Now you can say, "I have some favorites," but always say, "It was my last one."
I will keep a note on that. I will. Because I have this is what my at least third backstory interview I've done since the backstory interviews have started, because our next one, which I'm going to leave under wraps, is coming out next week, hopefully. So I will keep that in mind, Rick, because I'm always nervous before my interviews and stuff like that. So just a big note to self. I'm normally trying to be prepared for these, which I spent the last couple of days before getting this interview up and ready. I was going through at least maybe 5 or 6 clips. 5 or 6 clips of Rick DiMaio during the Fox 32 era, okay, guys? So if anybody figures it out, just know I work behind the scenes doing all of this. It's nerve-wracking, but let's say this will probably be close to my best interview.
Good way to end there, Rondell.
Thank you, Rick. It was such an honor to have you on. I will keep in touch with you for sure.
Yeah, sounds good. And by the way, I forwarded your information to Robert Feeder, so hopefully he'll give you some press.
Thank you.
All right, take care, man.
All right, you too.